Welcome back and a very good morning to you. This is your Daily Brief, keeping you up to speed with a number of issues that you need to know. Moments ago, the High Court, led there by Judge Luka Kimaru, has quashed the deportation of Miguna, terming it as null and void with no legal effect. And of course, we're continuing to react to that and just to find out what that means. The government has also been given 7 days not only to deliver Miguna's Kenyan passport, but also explain how they'll deliver Miguna before the court as ordered earlier. So we'll keep you up to speed with that. Let's just cross over borders a bit. And last night, South Africa's President Jacob Zuma decided to actually bow out due to pressure from his party, that is ANC, and decided to resign for a number of reasons which he gave and which we shall be reacting to. But before that, just in case you are not able to catch that bit of his press briefing, here's an excerpt.
I have therefore come to the decision to resign as President of the Republic with immediate effect.
Sorry, we're getting the longer version of that in a bit. We do apologize for that. But shall be listening in. You do remember that Jacob Zuma has been facing quite a number of scandals. Top on the list is on corruption scandals, which I shall be telling you more details on that. But let me just get quick reactions from my panel. Muthiora, let me start with you. He's sort of bowing to pressure coming from his political party, ANC, and this is not the very first time that this is happening. In fact, he's a beneficiary of the very same process that took Thabo Mbeki out.
Yes, and he was quoted saying that he does not see what he has done wrong. But that's not true. He did not do anything wrong at this time, but he has been involved in mega corruption in South Africa, and he's brought that great nation down, or at least to a point where it's not able to live to its full glory. Now, he stepped aside because he said he doesn't want to see people fight and die in his name, which is honorable. But something I must commend South Africa is where they are in terms of party structure and party democracy, because ANC has shown that if you allow parties to mature, you're able to have the right leaders in place. They recalled Thabo Mbeki because they felt he was not representing the interests of the people. They have done it again with Jacob Zuma. I pray for a day when Kenya will get there.
And in part of what he said, Steve, you can react to that, is that he not only doesn't want anyone to lose his life just because he's holding on to power, but he does not want to see the continued division within the political party that has made him who he is today.
Well, first, I think the kind of standards that South Africa is setting in terms of democracy, I don't think there is any country in Africa that is yet to get there. I mean, we'll get there even soon, or is yet to get to where South Africa is in terms of democracy. And having said that, I think the decision by the President Zuma, to resign, because he had an option of even not heeding to what the like of Ramaphosa and the likes were telling him, the pressure that they were mounting on him. He had an option to reject that and even to rebel against that. But I think he saw that in case he would have, rebelled against such pressures from the public and from his own party, then that would lead to loss of lives, would lead to, eroding some gains they have made as a country. And so I think that was a wise decision. But having said that, I know we all know the kind of troubles Zuma has brought to South Africa. Cases of corruption, very big corruption scandals. You heard about an instance where he spent a lot of money to build a home that he doesn't even need, and that was from the taxpayers' money. And on the other hand, we have unemployment rate really growing. Young people don't have jobs. We're seeing how the state of infrastructure in South Africa was going down, according to a report read by the World Bank, And so his decision, it means means that he's putting the country first and not his own self-interest. And I think this is what needs to be emulated by other African leaders, that when you are in a position like you're a head of state or any other high position in the government, and you have issues that are being, presented against you, it's always good to even step aside. Say in the case of Kenya, when you're a cabinet secretary, step aside, resign, and let investigations be done. And if you're found innocent, you are reinstated. I think this needs to be emulated by our leaders. And I hope other African countries are in a classroom. They're learning what's happening in South Africa. And I hope they're going to implement the learned lessons from what's happening in South Africa in terms of democracy.
Yeah, now, Dan, before I come to you, I'm going to ask my producer, Chege, to just pull up a tweet by the Twitter handle, that is President of Kenya, the official Twitter account of the Office of the President of the Republic of Kenya. President Uhuru Kenyatta, through that Twitter handle, also mentioned South Africa's President Jacob Zuma. We shall be reacting to what the President had to say and the kind of relations they had had. Remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta's first trip out of the country after being sworn in was to South Africa, but we'll come to that. But Dan, your immediate reactions to this?
I think that South Africa is a really true example of democracy in Africa, where parties are really working and they are working for the citizens. To the best of my knowledge, Zuma could have decided to remain in power, but the kind of force that was behind him could not allow him. In fact, for the last 1 week, I've been thinking Zuma was to resign. But because there is democracy, and through democracy, he is out. And this is what we are actually asking for. We're asking for. Look at what is happening in South Africa. Muthiora has spoken about corruption and every other issue. Remember, South Africa for many years has been the power of a strong economy. Yes. In fact, it has been in Africa it has been leading. But as it is right now, Nigeria and Egypt are actually ahead of South Africa, and this is courtesy of poor management as a result of poor leadership. And I'm thinking of a day when we will have such a kind of democracy, so that if you are in leadership and you are not able to deliver, parties can be able to recall you. This is what we're lacking in our country today, so that if Muthiora cannot be able to deliver in their party, citizens are able to recall him and tell him, listen, Muthiora, you are not able to deliver. Because you see, after all, as citizens, what are we looking for? We're looking for people who are going to work for us and deliver what is their mandate, what they have actually promised citizens. And that's what's happening in South Africa. And I think from there, where South Africa is moving to is a positive, is going to be positive for them, because you see, leadership has changed, and I want to believe it will take them a while, but the economy is again going to bounce back.
Okay. This is what President Uhuru Kenyatta had to say. Let's just put that on the screen. My brother, SA President, that is Jacob Zuma's official Twitter handle. We appreciate and salute you for the role played in enhancing our friendship with the people of South Africa. We wish you well in our next phase of service and leadership. My ANC, that is the official Twitter handle of the ANC party, has once again reminded us the importance of strong political parties. Muthiora, pick that, because President Uhuru Kenyatta actually attended the 106th anniversary of the ANC party as part of his official trip. And some had actually said that the president was very keen on what is happening within South Africa, and that is why he had separate meetings, not only with Jacob Zuma, but also with Cyril Ramaphosa, who is now the leader of the ANC party.
Well, he went there to take a few lessons, and I think he's getting it right if you look at how he's marshalling his Jubilee party. It might seem excessive right now. We've had from some quarters people say that when he calls them for parliamentary group meetings, he goes to lecture them. But then our democracy, party-wise, is still at a toddler stage, and we see a lot of misbehavior with our leaders. Yeah. We need someone to take charge and show the way. And I believe his trip to South Africa was he wanted to maybe learn from the best in Africa, how they've been able to have a party hold that long and still be effective. And I hope, and I have seen signs, that Jubilee could just be a party that was not for this election and the previous one, but a party that's going to be here for a long time. And should Kenya go in that direction, I feel this impunity and idol worship that we give to political leaders will come to an end, and our politics will shift from being personality-based to issue-based, and that's what will move Kenya forward.
Ideally, you know, Steve, ANC is what, rather, KANU right here in Kenya is what ANC should have been, given that it is one of our longest surviving party. What do you think has hindered that from happening over the time?
Of course, I think, like you said, you know, but that hasn't happened. You know, we're seeing issues of party structure, and we're seeing a lot of party leaders who, or parties that are after, that are playing a lot of tribal politics. If you look at ANC, you know, there is, them it's about very, you know, very tangible, you know, issue. It's an issue-based. They play issue-based politics, you know. So that's why you're seeing if say Zuma, you know, has been found committing certain corrupt practices, then on the basis of that, they getting him out of office, you know. So for them, it's about it's issue-based politics. It's never about tribal politics. And I think now, for the sake of KANU, you know, it's been playing a lot of, and other parties.
KANU today is 57 years old, just about to turn 57.
I didn't know that.
Okay. Steve, hold that thought. Maybe you can ponder on that particular,
right.
you know, fact. Let's cross over, right? Let's come back home a bit before we go on matters Zuma resigning. We cross over to the Milimani Law Courts, where we have Franklin Macharia on standby to just give us an in-depth report about Supreme Court. Sorry, to just give us an in-depth report about the ruling on Miguna's deportation being quashed. Franklin, what's the latest on this? Other than what we know, what does this mean, especially for the place of government? And they have been given quite a number of orders. Just take us through.
Things are happening a bit fast, Ian, and now we are at the Supreme Court. Just outside the Supreme Court buildings, you can see a battery of lawyers here. They have come to register their disappointment with the executive in following or in effecting court orders. And this, the Miguna case is one of the cases that the lawyers are talking about the executive not honoring court orders. And there are so many lawyers here who have arrived, and I've seen even the lawyers who are representing Miguna in the extradition case. They're here, or in the deportation case, they're here, including Senior Counsel James Orengo. They are just expressing their disappointment with the executive in following court orders. And what we know now is that Miguna is supposed to come back to the country, and the government has been given 7 days to explain the process and the day which he will come back. And the government has actually been ordered to surrender his passport to the court saying that by the time that Miguna was deported, he was under the custody of the court, and therefore the police were not, or the immigration department was not supposed to deport him before he is presented in the courtroom. So that is what is happening now. We can see the lawyers addressing some of the journalists who have come here, and maybe we'll be able to get closer and get to hear what they are talking about. And of course, this coming just a day after the ruling Jubilee Party expressed disappointment in what it says is the judiciary favoring the NASA side, as opposed to being fair in its judgment. So we'll just be on the lookout and find out probably what will happen after the lawyers finish their meeting here. They have had a demonstration all the way from the Milimani Law Courts up to here at the Supreme Court. Ian.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Franklin Macharia. Of course, we shall be waiting to hear what Chief Justice David Maraga has to say in line with this. Remember, he will have to be reacting to the to the protest by the lawyers, as well as a letter written to him by the head of secretariat that is of Jubilee, that is Raphael Tuju. Let's also cross over to the office of the Attorney General, where he's meeting representatives from the Swiss embassy at Sharia House in regards to a joint press conference. Let's listen in, and then I shall be telling you more details about that, and perhaps if he may also take a question about his resignation. That might also be something that will be key, since this is his first appearance after he formally handed over his resignation letter to President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Secretary, Miss you, Ambassador, I want from the outset to welcome you to Kenya and to wish you a very good stay in our country. We meet here today to celebrate the continuing friendship and cooperation of our two countries in several areas, but particularly in the fight against corruption. We note that today you will be inaugurating your new embassy in Nairobi, which is testament of the regard of Kenya and an indication that you intend to be our for a long time, and we are very happy about that. Further, Madam Secretary, we recall that we first made a request to you to provide mutual legal assistance to us on the Anglo-leasing cases in 2008. You acted promptly. You gave us very critical information and evidence. As a result, only very recently, you have frozen 2.2 in that investigation, and we are deeply grateful for the assistance. We are also happy to note, Madam Secretary, that last year in April, your government and our government signed a memorandum of understanding on MLA, which continues to provide the roadmap to be used in the requests that we send to you and those that you send to us, and it is working very well indeed. We want again, Madam Secretary, to acknowledge the technical assistance you've given to us, particularly in developing the guidelines on the efficient recovery of stolen assets. We welcome the technical support you continue to provide to the anti-corruption embedded within the Commission. Kenya takes her treaty responsibilities under UNCAC very, very seriously, and that is why we have spent a lot of time trying to develop our head of the financial a leading this region for financial transparency in all our economy. We are also very grateful for the support we receive, including particularly from yourself and the IMF, on developing anti-money laundering and counter-financing of terrorism. As you know, Madam Secretary, Kenya is a frontline nation in the fight against terrorism, and we recognize how critical it is to intercept and interrupt finances that are channeled to support terrorism. Here in Kenya, we have signed the Multilateral Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance in Tax Matters, And again, we are happy for the support that we have received from your government in this regard, and would like again to reiterate Kenya's commitment to run an open economy in which we do not provide any incentive for persons or institutions involved in tax fraud. The government of Kenya will continue to provide the widest possible in criminal investigations, in prosecutions, and judicial proceedings in criminal matters. We are signing with several other countries a mutual legal assistance framework like the one we have executed with you, and we have received a very, very enthusiastic response from several other countries. As you are aware, the document that we shall initialize today is already a three-way agreement.
Happening right now at the Sharia House is a joint press briefing between His Excellency Ambassador Roberto Rossetti of Switzerland and the Attorney General of Kenya, Professor Githu Muigai, in regards to mutual legal assistance in criminal matters. And of course, this is just a way the two countries can work together to solve legal issues when it comes to criminal matters. We shall keep you up to speed. Remember, that is Professor Githu Muigai's first public appearance rather after he handed in his letter of resignation. In the meantime, we were reacting to the news that South Africa's President Jacob Zuma bowed to pressure from his political party, that is African National Congress, to resign. And President Uhuru Kenyatta actually spoke about this and said that ANC has once again reminded us the importance of strong political parties. And it is on that note that I'm taking my final comments from my panel, starting from Steve, Dan, and then Muthiora.
Yeah, I think like I was mentioning, I think one of the things that I believe that has kept on a party like ANC holding for that long is, they're not playing tribal politics, They're playing politics that are based on, issues. And that's why you see, like I said, we're having a president who's being forced to resign because he is corrupt. And I don't think that is something that can happen in any other country in Africa. So I think that is a leaf we need to borrow as a country and even strengthen the democracy within the political parties we have in the country. Because I know the democracy of a country in the political context starts from, how democratic political parties are. And then it trickles down into the public domain and all that. So I think that is an area, if we are to advance in terms of democracy as a country, I think that's an area that our political parties need to do soul searching and see how best they can strengthen their parties and get rid of this idea of tribal-based politics.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you, Steve. Dan.
I want to say this: Kenya needs strong institutions. We need strong institutions that can stand at the test of time, institutions that are going to serve this country, because if we talk of individuals will come and go, but institutions will always remain. We expect a parliament that is strong, that can be able to stand the test of time, a judiciary that is strong. We expect a presidency that respects the rule of law. That's the only way we can move forward. We expect strong parties. Parties that can be able to record individuals they think that are not serving Kenyans in the right way, not serving individuals, because currently as it is, we don't have political parties in this country. What we have is actually tribal outfits. People are trying to call tribal parties. People are calling parties, but in reality, they are tribal outfits which are not going to take us anywhere. And therefore, what I'm requesting, if anybody is listening outside there, we are yearning for strong institutions.
Okay, thank you. Muthiora, you have a final word.
I would urge Kenyans that we borrow a leaf from South Africa. They have resisted poor governance and leadership. I would like to urge Kenyans to resist tribalism, to resist non-representation, to resist corruption, to resist poverty. Let us fight for a united nation. That's how we'll forge forward faster for the benefit of everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. Steve, you got something to say?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
in my final submission, what I'd like to say, like
Yeah.
I've always said before, the biggest test that the president has in terms of building a legacy is leaving behind a united nation. And so he should go out of his way to make certain that, these issues of division are well addressed, and let him behave like a father, When you're a father, you have kids with different behaviors. And so when your kid behaves in a certain way, you don't reject him. You don't just reject him. You get a way of correcting him with love and finding a way of accommodating his views and just bringing him to be the right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I've been speaking to Muthiora Kariara, Steve Ogutu, as well as Dan Muchongo. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now, it's a wrap for your daily brief, but that I'm not leaving you without telling you what you need to know so far, is that the High Court has quashed the deportation of Miguna, and of course we shall continue to react to that, has given government a number of orders. Franklin Macharia is following that. We had Chief Justice David Maraga swear in 2 Deputy Inspector General of Police as members of the National Police Service Commission, and of course Zuma resigned. More on these details at the top of the hour, which is during Newscut. Up next will be Inside Business. My name is Ian Ofula. Have a lovely day.